yin yoga practice. My name's Jasmine if you've not yet joined me for a practice on the mat. So this evening we are focusing on the hamstrings. So the hamstrings sit on the backs of the thighs, and those of us that spend a lot of time seated, which is 99% of the population, we tend to have really tight hamstrings and the back legs can feel quite restricted a lot of the time. This often can be a result of tight hip flexors, as well as tight calves, tight necks and upper and lower backs. So we are going to think about all of these areas today, but really the focus is lengthening into the backs of the legs and making sure we free up some tension. If you've not yet practiced yin, please know that yin is a really slow practice and we hold the poses anywhere between 3 and 5 minutes. So if you're used to a more dynamic practice, it's probably going to be a little bit of a challenge because we tend to want to move. We want to go, we want to flow, we want to, be high energy a lot of the time, but actually where the real healing takes place is during these slower restorative practices. So we're going to start off in fire toe pose. Those of you that have done this before know why it's called that. So we're going to tuck the toes under and we're going to sit back onto the heels. Now, if this is really excruciating, you can stay lifted and just have the weight of just the feet to untuck the toes. Hopefully you're going to be able to sit down onto the heels. If that's all just unavailable to you, please just come to a kneeling pose and just start the beginning meditation from there. So just gazing back, if your toes are tucked, to make sure the little toes aren't curled under, and you can kind of untuck them as well, just to make sure we are opening up through the whole of the feet. So the reason it's really important to open up into the feet is because the posterior chain of connective tissues actually finish just by the toes. So sometimes we feel a restriction in the hamstrings, in the back, and actually sometimes it's got nothing to do with those areas at all, and it can be down to something as small as the heel or something in the toes. We're not very mobile through our feet often, so it's really good to actually activate through the soles of the feet for this reason. So you're probably already feeling a little bit of resistance through the body here. Maybe you're starting to tighten the feet, maybe you're starting to frown. So let's just breathe. Let's breathe through it. We're going to roll the shoulders up. We're going to drop them down, and you can just allow the arms to rest by the sides of the body, or you can take the hands behind and interlace through and just squeeze the shoulder blades together. Closing down the eyes if you've not already, and we're just starting to deepen the breath. So yin yoga is a really mindful practice, and by that I mean we're really focusing on embodying the principles of our yin practice. So it doesn't matter what happened at work today, it doesn't matter what you might be doing with your weekend, what you might be planning for next week. For these next 45 minutes, this time is for you. Don't deny yourself this time. Really allow yourself to completely focus on you and your body for now. So maybe feeling quite a bit of tension in the toes, that's perfectly normal. Just take a deep breath and send that breath to your feet. And then let the breath go heavy. Let's take just one more breath before we relieve ourselves from this pose. And as you exhale, you can release the hands, bring the weight forwards, release the toes, give them a scrunch, ouch, I know. And you might like to tap, 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 tops of the feet on the mat. And then just as a brief counter pose, we're going to come back and take an ankle stretch, taking the hands behind, and either just leaning and opening up into the chest, or if you can, you're going to rock the weight onto the toes, and you're going to just lift up through the kneecaps. So we're not here long, we're just taking the ankles in the opposite direction, just to mobilize through the front of the legs. deep breath in here with me. And as you exhale, allow the knees to drop back down to the mat. And we're going to come into dangling pose. So you might know this as standing forward bend. And we're going to tuck the toes under and just push the weight back to the heels. Moving intuitively for your body just for a moment. Take a gentle rock. This crouching position is really quite nice, just to massage through the calf muscles and the Achilles tendon. And then when you're ready, when your legs feel like they can, you're going to drop the heels to the floor and you're going to lift the hips to the sky and just hang. So I don't want you to think here about having to lock out the knees. I don't want you to think about having to touch the floor. You could have as much of a bend in your knees here as you like. The hands might be resting on the thighs, maybe they're on the shins, perhaps they're on the floor. Maybe you can take the hands and kind of cross the arms just over the crown of the head so the top of the head can rest on the forearms. And while we arrive here initially, just take a little gentle sway side to side. We are here for quite some time, so now as we find that stillness, that soft, sweet point in between pain and a nice release of tension. So in yin, we always look for about 70% of the pose. So we're never reaching burnout, we're never reaching burning, tearing sensations in the body parts. We're always looking for just that soft release. So our bodies are made up of lots of different connective tissues. So muscles often respond to a more dynamic practice, but actually the connective tissues that engulf every muscle, every joint, every bone, they actually need a little bit more time. So when we hold these poses for 3 to 5 minutes, the denser parts of our anatomy actually begin to soften. And they do so not with strain, not with force, not with pushing, but just surrendering. Giving in to the weight of the upper body, releasing over the legs. And as always, we bring our focus back to the breath. Never forgetting to breathe. Take one last deep breath in here. And as you exhale, release the hands to the floor and bend the knees slowly. The transitions are always slow motion in yin. So take your normal speed, half it, and half it again. So take your right leg in front. We're going to come into high dragon. Now this is going to open up into our hip flexors, which those of us that spend a lot of time seated, either driving, working from a desk, this part of our body is in flexion all the time. So what that means is it is shortened. And what we're doing in this pose is we're going to lengthen. So it might feel a bit strange. You're going to walk that front foot forwards, and you're going to find your stance. So deciding for yourself how far apart your front and back foot can be. For some of you, you're going to stay really kind of close. If you've got more space, you might be taking it wider. Front knee is stacked directly over that front ankle. And we're going to sink the pelvis low. So just take a moment, as always, I give you this time to arrive. And when you do so, you can place the hands on that front thigh, shut down the eyes. Now I am actually timing us in these poses for 3 minutes, just because we are going to be doing different sides, so making sure that we do spend equal time on each leg. So sometimes when we suffer with a lack of length or a lack of freedom in our hamstrings, actually it's something in the front of the body, such as our hip flexors, that are restricting movement. So just noticing for yourself where you feel the tension here. For lots of us, we will be experiencing a tension on the left front of the hip. So where the left thigh bone meets the pelvis, that's where our hip flexors, that's where they meet. And they're called that because they are the muscles, they are responsible for flexing the hip. So, of course, if we spend a lot of time seated, they're going to be really quite tense and really strong. Thinking about all of that muscle memory that will go into keeping those muscles in that flexed position. And then, of course, all the connective tissue that flexes too, because it's all interlinked. So just noticing the sensations, and if it's unbearable right now, if you're in pain, you've gone too far. You should be breathing through the tensions here together. And we've been holding this pose for a total of 3 minutes. You're on the last minute now. So really starting to soften this body area with the breath. Last few breaths. And now slowly starting to come out of this pose. You've made it. Releasing the hips backwards slightly. We're going to walk the foot a little bit closer to you. Now if your back knee is suffering with the tension on the floor, you can always double over the mat, just to provide a little bit of padding. And we're going to come into low dragon now. So for low dragon, we're actually travelling the front knee past the ankle, which we rarely see in any type of, yoga or exercise. Often we align the knee with the ankle, but this time we're moving the ankle over past the toes. And this is going to awaken and lengthen the muscles in the calf, back of the leg, and also the Achilles tendon. So it's quite nice to rest your upper body, your torso, over that front thigh. Maybe you'd like to take the arms out longer along the floor. Closing down the eyes. Once again, we are here for 3 whole minutes. Maybe you wish to drop the head down too. So please know that if you ever need to come out of any pose, if for any reason you feel like you've gone too far, you've not failed, you've not done a good job if you actually just pull back. If you think, no, that's too much for my body on this Friday afternoon, on this Friday night, maybe you need to go easier on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. So we often think, if there's no pain, there's no gain. And actually with yin it's quite the opposite. Because if we experience pain, what we do is we tense and we contract, which is the complete opposite of what we're trying to do in the yin practice. What we're trying to do with the yin practice is surrender and to give in. So that's why that challenging part of this practice is really finding that balance, that place in between pleasure and pain. So you have 1 more minute left in this pose. Really see if you can deepen the breath any more now. And then slowly, in slow motion, we start to walk the hands up, slowly coming out of this. Take that right foot behind you. We'll take just a moment in a gentle child's pose, just as a counter pose from those dragons. Maybe you want to take the arms down by the sides of the legs. So in this moment, just notice the difference between your right and your left side. Sensations, tingling, any pulses of energy that you might be sensing. And then slowly as we come out of this counter pose, pushing the floor away, we're going to come up and do the same on our left leg. So this time stepping the left foot forwards, coming into high dragon to begin with. So once again checking the distance between your front and back leg. And you're just going to take a while to arrive. So if you're feeling stiff like me today, sometimes getting into these positions feels a little bit tricky to begin with, and slowly but surely we begin to soften. So coming up with the hands resting on that front thigh, checking the knee is in line with the front ankle to begin with. Back is nice and straight, and then we shut down the eyes. Here on this side for 3 minutes. And just checking with how this feels on the other leg. So sometimes with these hip openers, when we first arrive, they can feel a little bit odd, but sometimes there's not so much discomfort, but actually it's the holding it for the length of time that makes it tricky. That's why I actually find a yin practice harder than a dynamic vinyasa flow. Maybe you feel the same, or maybe you're thinking, nope. Sun salutations are a lot harder. I think for most people, the art of stillness, of the body, of the mind, is something that does not come naturally to a lot of us. Naturally, we feel a lot more comfortable if we're just moving, if we're going, if we're doing, if we're striving, if we're pushing. And so the art of just being is quite vulnerable for a lot of people. You know, the amount of times that I've taught a yin class and people have emotional breakthroughs because they've never been quiet with their mind before. So just giving yourself this time now. Last minute here. Last few breaths. And then slowly releasing back to the floor. Come out of this slightly. Once again, you might like to double over the mat. I always need to for the next pose for my knee. I've got knobbly knees. So feeling free to take, you can even take a blanket under that knee if you need to. And coming into low drag, and we actually walk this foot a little bit closer to your body, towards your hips. And for low drag, the knee travels over the toes. So again, the distance that it might travel, it might not get very far. It might still be kind of in line with the ankle, but you might still be feeling it into the calf. So never look at anyone in a pose and think, oh, my body should look like that. Your body should look like your body, exactly as it is. So coming into this pose, once again, we're here for 3 minutes. Feel the weight of the body resting over that leg as we open up into the calf, the gastrocnemius, the soleus, the Achilles tendon. And I'd like you to drop the weight of the head down. So both the head and the pelvis are the heaviest parts of the body. And they're often not utilised enough in our practice. We often hold our head up. And just a conscious reminder that our head is really heavy. Sometimes that's all we need, just to really get that little bit more out of the pose. Not in terms of progressing further or being more flexible, but just surrendering to it more. When I said to drop your head down, maybe you noticed that you were really holding and keeping that neck and head in place. And just see from wherever you are, if you can just encourage the connective tissues to soften a little bit more. Can you send a positive mantra to the body and just say, you're safe to relax? So often the reason that we feel tense or stressed is because the body doesn't feel safe. All the body is trying to do is keep you alive. It has your best interests at heart. But you know you're safe in this moment, so just remind your body, remind your nervous system that you're safe. You can relax. Last few breaths here, less than a minute. And then slowly starting to come out of this pose, pushing the body away. And once again we'll come into a child's pose just to relieve the legs, relieve the hips. In your preferred version you might like to stretch the arms out this time. Either way the head melts down. And then taking the hands underneath the shoulders, we push the floor away. And you're going to come onto your sit bones. I'm going to take caterpillar pose, or you might know this as seated forward fold. So come in with the legs out straight, and I'd just like you to take the hands to the thighs. I'd just like you to rock the legs. Tell them to relax. Tell them to soften. Don't let the quadriceps tighten up. Mine are in agony, so I'm just my legs. Just allow them to soften. So how do the legs naturally fall? Just allow them to arrive as they do without any preconceptions that they need to engage or lift or lengthen. Just let them flop. There might be a little softness to the backs of the knees. Maybe you've got a deeper bend. If you're particularly tight in the hamstrings, there'll be more of a bend in the knees. Just like you to take the hands, the backs of the hands to the floor. Take a deep breath in and just feel the crown of the head grow tall. Lift the chin. And then as you exhale, just tuck the chin into the chest and just start to feel your body round down to the floor. So there's no pressure to get lower, to straighten the back, to straighten the legs. You're just allowing gravity to do its work. And if you're feeling really tight in the backs of the legs, maybe you've got a really deep bend to the knees, and then the chest can melt to the thighs. That's quite nice. If the hamstrings are a little bit more mobile, maybe you have long, straight legs, and maybe you're just allowing the chest to melt down towards the thighs, and the head to melt in between the knees. We're in this pose again for a total of 3 minutes, so closing down the eyes. And automatically, just notice, have the fronts of your thighs, your quadriceps, have they engaged? Because mine had. When I automatically come into a forward fold, my thighs tense. So maybe you need to just remind yourself to switch off that muscle group. Maybe you've sent attention to a different body part, maybe your shoulders. Soften the shoulders. Maybe you're clenching your jaw, maybe you're frowning. Can you soften? And it's really nice here in caterpillar pose if we can just start to visualize that each exhalation makes our head that bit heavier. So there's always that sense of lift with the inhale. And then a fall with the exhale. So just enjoying this wave of breath. We have just over 1 minute left here in caterpillar pose. Taking a deep breath in. And as you exhale slowly, in slow motion, we start to walk the hands back up. And in your own time, we're going to come all the way over onto our backs. Take the legs into the body and just give the knees a gentle rock side to side. Taking circles in one direction and in the other direction. So sending your right leg up into the air. And you're going to choose to hold either the back of the thigh, maybe you're holding on to the calf. And from here you're going to take your left hand and you're going to place it on the outside of the thigh, the calf, maybe the foot. And we're just going to allow it to travel a few degrees over to the left, just a few degrees. And then bringing the outside of the left thigh to the floor, we're going to see if we can come into a twist with a straight top leg. If that's too much for you, please bend the top leg and just use your hands on the outside of the thigh, just as a little bit of weight for the leg. If you can, you're going to keep that leg out straight, and you're going to see if you can turn your gaze to look away from the leg. We're here a total of 3 minutes in this pose, so make sure that you are at that place of not pain, not no sensation at all, but that sweet middle spot. Just breathing into the outside of the leg here. Sometimes in our twists we can feel a little bit of a restriction of breath. So I'd just like to encourage you to deepen the breath all the way down into the belly. And a lot of the time, we're actually only breathing with about 70% of our lung capacity. So by deepening our breath with intention, we're clearing out stagnant energy, negative toxins, and removing old carbon dioxide that needs to leave the body. So just noticing for yourself in this pose, if you started to clench or contract any muscles. So it's quite common here to clench the outside hip or glute to kind of hold that leg in place. Maybe you've clenched both glutes. Can you soften them? Can you remind yourself that you're safe? And that all you need to do in this moment now is breathe. Take a deep breath in here, and as you exhale, bend into both knees deeply, and slowly bring them back through to center. Gentle rock of the knees side to side, and we'll take that twist on the other leg. So sending your left leg up into the air, holding on to either the hamstrings, the back of the thigh, or we're taking hold of the calf. And then we're taking the right hand and holding the outside of that leg, so thigh, calf, or foot. And we're slowly taking it over the midline of the body, just a few degrees to work into that sciatic nerve. And then seeing if we can take the bent leg all the way to the floor. And then we're slowly taking that leg out to the side. Once again, if you need to bend into both knees and just use the hand on the top of the thigh, that's an option for you. Or you keep hold of the calf, the foot, and you straighten that leg out in your twist. Can you gaze away from the legs and look at the opposite hand that's out at shoulder height? Closing down the eyes. And just really taking a moment to enjoy the sensations that you can feel in the body now. Knowing that we are not at a place of discomfort or pain. But you found that sweet spot in between, and you can just enjoy without force, without strain. Letting go of any preconception of what you should look like in this pose, and just enjoying what you can feel in this pose. Can you deepen your breath any more? a deep breath in here. And as you exhale, bending into that knee, bringing the legs back through to center. And then in your own time, in your own way, coming into the final pose for your practice, Shavasana, the corpse pose. Just allowing the legs to fall, the palms turning upwards by the sides of the body. Closing down the eyes. Taking probably one of the most challenging poses in yoga. Asking your body and asking your mind as one to be still. Just allowing all of the positive effects of your physical practice to absorb into your energetical body. Just for a few moments. slowly now starting to deepen your breath. Starting to energize the body as you begin to bring yourself out of this state of relaxation. Maybe you'd like to stretch your arms up overhead and lengthen down the sides of your body. And when you're ready, turning and rolling onto your left side, your yin side, and then slowly pushing yourself up into a seated position with me. Bring the hands to meet together and just bowing the forehead to your fingertips, taking a moment to feel a smile spread across your face, feeling grateful, feeling that sense of gratitude for anything and everything that you choose to in this moment. And I in turn are grateful for you choosing to practice with me. Shanti, Namaste to you all. Thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this evening's practice.